Hello, and welcome to the Coaching for Current and Aspiring Administrators and Instructional Leaders module. This self-paced module will give you the opportunity to explore the 4 types of strategic conversations and teacher types. To operate this module, please press the play button. You are encouraged to pause when there are questions posed about the videos and take some time to reflect on your answers. This module has been adapted to your learning style. Now let's take a moment to observe some administrators dialoguing about current educational issues.
Thinking about teacher evaluation and going into classrooms and having conversations about teachers and how they can improve their practice. Prior to coaching, it was much more prescriptive, okay? Telling teachers what I wanted them to do, describing what I thought I should see when I come into their classrooms, and again, showing them through verbal interactions what my expectations were for their practice, versus being much more collaborative, having them identify for themselves some strengths and some challenges and areas for growth, to outline opportunities for improving instructional practice. That is a strong piece of the coaching model, and I think that it was clearly absent of my practice prior to participating in Coaching 101.
For me, as a building principal, prior to Coaching 101, it was the old, there's a problem that arises, fire extinguisher. I go in with answers. I can handle it. Do this, just do that, do this, and which kind of limits, the skill, the development of the skill set of those teachers, right, or whoever we're working with at that time. If I go in and I'll give all the answers, really, how much are you growing? And so after Coaching 101, it really opened my eyes to, being more effective as a leader and as a coach, is to help you get to that resolution or, solve that whatever issue or problem through your own thinking, and help coaching and mediating your thinking, opposed to me just giving you answers, is really how you grow skill, not put a Band-Aid on it or be the answer or the out. So that was a lot of growth happened for me in that field.
Well, I guess to continue going in this direction, my thoughts about how Coaching 101 would have been more beneficial for me was incident where no matter how high you get up as an administrator, at some point in time you have a boss. And when someone who's your boss, who's higher up, gives you instructions, and those instructions might not be as clear, or in some cases I may not have been able to understand as well as I could have, and being able to ask questions in a constructive way where the person is a participant in further clarifying what they're thinking and helping them shape their thoughts if it hadn't been well defined, or maybe helping the person who's your boss explain something to you in a different way so that you're on the same page in a non-threatening way, has been one of the things that are most beneficial for me. So I'm hearing you say, and so do I get this particular part right? You said 1 or 2. Well, can you tell me more about what you mean? And then that way the person let that pause, and then of course following up with your quote, but that pause makes the other person feel, hey, this person is really trying to understand. So even your boss, hey, I said so and so, go do it. Now it's, well, okay, person's trying to understand, let me try to explain it a different way. It's kind of a buy-in, and it helps establish, I think, a more cohesive team. So that's what I think would have been a lot more helpful back in some of my other interactions.
As I think back to my days being an administrator, it seemed as though I was always in a hurry. Things had to be done yesterday. And here I am trying to tackle them today. So it was a matter of taking the time or having the tools to know that it was okay, better actually, to take the time to actually listen and ask those probing questions and really listen to the answers being given so that we would begin to work as a team and to help to build the teacher's capacity. But Julian, like you, I was anxious to give you the answers because I've got like 5 minutes and I need to get to lunch duty or do something else on my schedule. But now as I think back to that and as I work with teachers, I know that it's very important to be present in the moment and to actually listen, let my body respond to, so that the teachers know that I am listening, I am truly engaged.
This is a very important kind of question that you ask. Back in the day, when I was administrating or teaching administrators, there was always an atmosphere of implicit or explicit expectations because there was a grand design about how education should be delivered. And that grand design did not include necessarily at the top the learner. And so one of the things that would have been helpful would have been to understand that all of what we do in education is about truly, as the word implies from the Latin, draw out what is within the student. And in that sense, also draw out what is within the teacher. And so as an administrator, I found that I did some things intuitively, but always wondered, would this be visualized as meeting the expectations of that boss, that higher up, who literally said, here's what you need to do, here's what we need to see. And while I would force the issue in the most manipulative way in order to get that to come out, I totally lost the perspective of what's going on inside of the person. And how can I connect with what's happening for that teacher to literally model for them what can happen for the student? And, that was a profound awareness that was heightened when I got into 101. And I was constantly, inwardly snapping my fingers saying, man, I wish I had known that when I was back, back at the school, or even as a professor, training future school administrators, because I simply added to the conundrum that they were faced with when it came to how do I work with this teacher to get them to work with this student so that the people that are on my back can get off my back and I can do what I need to do.
Sure.
So it sounds as if all of us at the table, regardless of our experience and exposure, missed a key component that coaching helps with, the importance of listening, because we really can't hear the individual we're talking to and we've got all this other noise in our heads, And I think for me, that was the thing that was most powerful about Coaching 101, having some tools now to finally learn how to listen to what people were saying to me. I don't think I did that very well. In fact, I know I didn't do that very well beforehand, because you're right, Richard. You're always thinking about your list. It's like, okay, see teacher in room 103, check. Were there lesson plans handed in? Check. And it was so automated and so impersonal that we just lost the ability to, we weren't able to seize the opportunity to really have some rich relationships around learning.
In this module, you will review the foundational coaching skills, explore 4 types of strategic conversations, and examine the low-will, high-skill teacher type. Definition of coaching. As you will recall from Coaching 101 Foundations training, educational coaching is defined as a transparent practice of providing intentional support to school personnel to mediate thinking, clarify goals, and build capacity for the purpose of increasing student achievement. And the focus of our work is always the instructional core, the interaction of the teacher and the student in the presence of content. As you will recall from Coaching 101, we learned that your theory of intelligence determines your orientation, which is your dominant goal. This dominant goal impacts your thoughts, feelings, and actions after failure or some difficulty. Carol Dweck refers to this as mindset. In the next 2 slides, review the 2 mindsets. Compare the 2. All 3 components, the definition of coaching, the instructional core, and mindsets, assist in providing the coach with a fundamental belief that lays the foundation for their work. An essential element of your work as an educational coach is the conversation. As you consider the fundamental coaching skills, take a look at a coaching conversation between an administrator and a coach.
Well, hello, Principal Beverly. I'm so glad to see you this afternoon. What did you want to talk about today?
Recently, I've participated in Coaching 101 and wanted to discuss how it has impacted my feedback with teachers in my
So
school.
you've been having coaching conversations and giving them feedback. Tell me a little more about the feedback you're looking for.
Prior to going to Coaching 101, my feedback with teachers had been very prescriptive. In terms of mediation, I think that it's easy for a school leader to prescribe solutions for their staff. Seeing myself as the instructional leader in the building, I was going into classrooms, doing walkthroughs, doing observations, and my feedback was generally what I wanted to see happen in classrooms, trying to take a more of an authoritative instructional role.
So your training in Coaching 101 has been impactful for you and your teachers, and that you're less prescriptive, focused with what you thought should happen in the classroom. But now you're seeing that needs to change. Mediation is a powerful tool that a coach can use, and it can be transformative to a teacher's practice. It can transform the way they make decisions about what they will do, and it can also transform how they reflect on the work they've done with students. So as you're thinking about the skills you've gained in Coaching 101, what are some of the impact that that's had on your teachers and on their instruction?
I would say that my teachers have become more open, and I think the Coaching 101 process has allowed for me to want to be more collaborative, and the skills that I learned in Coaching 101 have provided me with a skill set for mediating thinking, going deeper with conversations with my teachers, specifically around their instructional practice, and giving them a space to take ownership of both their strengths and their challenges in the classroom.
The principal was so good about it. Part of the lesson went well, and there were other parts that I wasn't so sure about. He mediated my thinking about what I had done as I reflected on it along with him.
It's much more difficult, yet much more effective if you're able to mediate the thinking of your teachers, allowing them to recognize the strengths and their own challenges with regards to instruction, and then again developing their own capacity to problem solve and develop solutions in a collaborative manner.
So using this new feedback you've learned in coaching, you've been able to give them some space, collaboration, and also ownership has been important in your building. Tell me specifically about some of the skills you're going to use from Coaching 101 that you think will make an impact on the teachers.
Since going to Coaching 101, I've recognized that there are more valuable and more efficient and effective ways of providing feedback to my teachers. Having a positive presupposition, understanding the strengths of my teaching staff, building those strengths up, in addition to the process for providing meaningful coaching conversations, including pausing, paraphrasing, and probing for deeper understanding.
The way he paraphrases what I say to him and the way he then probes with questions and gets me to think about my own practice is something I've never experienced before. And it's a whole new thing for me to take the time and have the encouragement to look at what I'm doing.
Take a moment to read and reflect on the questions. Please take a moment to read and reflect on the questions. Helping adults can be a challenge. Take a moment to read the slide. Read and compare the next 3 slides.
Effective leaders understand that transformation occurs with the conversation. Strategic conversations are a series of targeted, individualized interactions with teachers designed to help them significantly improve the impact of their teaching behaviors on student achievement. Take a look at the elements and benefits of strategic conversations. As you reflect on your practice, what might be some implications for understanding the elements and benefits of strategic conversations? There are 4 types of strategic conversations: reflecting, facilitating, coaching, and directing. Reflecting and coaching conversations help teachers make connections between their behavior, attitudes, and student achievement, which is the outcome. Facilitating and directing conversations support teachers in making connections in their teaching practice for improvement. A coaching conversation is a type of strategic conversation. The teacher has to think deeply about the instruction before instruction can improve. The teacher cannot improve without feedback, and feedback occurs during the coaching conversation. Having a coaching conversation, which is strategic, is very powerful after an observation because it supports the belief that teachers have capacity and the ability to improve. Mediation and strategic conversations create constant growth and improvement. For the intriguing mind, a formula has been created to describe mediation. Mediation, me, is the skillful use of coaching tools, CT, that support S, the person being coached, to clarify, C, refine, R, modify, M, or shift thinking, S/T. As a summary, here are the strategic conversations' foundational beliefs. Conversations are more effective when you assess the needs of your staff. You can assess your staff's needs very quickly by looking at 2 key areas: will and skill.
Effective teaching is the intersection between will and skill. Read the definition of will and skill. Will and skill have different attributes. Will consists of motivation, resolve, a belief system, listening, observing, and giving feedback. Skill consists of pedagogy, content knowledge, learning needs, managing behavior, and knowledge of curriculum and student progress. Teachers in a building will be at various places on the will-skill continuum. Some will be high will, high skill. Some may be low will, low skill. Let's take a look at the 4 types of teachers. The 4 types of teachers are displayed in the quadrant. The 4 types of teachers say and do different things. Take a moment to read the graphic. Now it's your turn. Think of 2 teachers in your building. Where would you place them in a quadrant on the will-skill continuum? What evidence are you referencing as you locate them within a quadrant? Why is it important to place teachers in the quadrant based on evidence? Why is it important to have this information? How might you use this information to assist you in your conversations? Let's continue to explore some questions. What did you notice about the 4 types of teachers? What does teacher development mean? What might be the benefit of assessing the type of teachers in your building? Exploring these questions helps you to plan the type of conversation you will have with the different types of teachers. As you know, the true work of coaching a teacher is mediating their thinking. The benefits of mediation include posing inquiry questions, which are mediational questions, expanding thinking, exploring intentions, inviting lifting of teacher consciousness. Take a moment to read how teachers benefit from mediation. A highly skilled coach can mediate thinking through asking inquiry questions. Here are some examples. In the next segment, you will watch a coaching conversation. Pay attention and focus on the inquiry questions.
Principal Beverly?
Mr. Boggs, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate your willingness to meet with me and chat a little bit. It's been a while.
Well, I'm pretty busy, but what is it that you need?
Well, first would like to acknowledge all of your years of service here in our school.
Thank you. I've been here 10 years teaching mathematics.
Your dedication to our students has been exemplary, as well as your quality of teaching. I just wanted to spend some time acknowledging that, and then also recognizing that there has been some time has passed since the last time we spoke. I just wanted to catch up and see how you're feeling about teaching in our school.
Oh, well, I mean, like I said, I've been here 10 years. I've enjoyed teaching mathematics. The students aren't quite the same as they were. I mean, they seem to be different. Parents have a different role. They don't seem to be as involved, as engaged. They're not as interested in helping their kids at home as they once were. I think their scores have gone lower as a result of this.
Tell me a little bit more about the student scores going lower. Tell me a little bit more.
Well, I just don't think they're performing as high as they once were, and it's really because they're just not trying hard. They're not grasping the material. They're not understanding the concepts. And I tried teaching it in different ways, but they still don't seem to get it.
Okay. So I hear you're frustrated with student achievement taking a slight dip.
I'm frustrated with them.
Frustrated with the students. Tell me a little bit about the strategies that you said you've used, alternate strategies. Tell me a little bit about some of those strategies.
I teach the mathematical concept one way, and then I try and teach it a different way to capture different learning styles. I also try to incorporate it into this kind of theory of mathematics as a story that each concept builds on one another to help their achievement or help their understanding of it. But they seem to be lacking key concepts they should have learned before they got to my class.
Okay. So I hear that you have a storybook way of teaching mathematics, but you're feeling that the students are lacking in some foundational skills prior to your classroom.
Yeah, they seem to be coming in and starting in the middle of the book, and they haven't had the first couple chapters.
Okay.
You need to talk to the elementary teachers about this.
Okay. So
they're not preparing them.
So you feel that students aren't prepared at earlier grades prior to attending your class?
Yes.
Okay. What type of strategies around differentiation have you tried in your classroom?
Well, having a master's in mathematics, I try to, build and scaffold and try different things, group works, front of the room instruction, allowing them to teach one another some of the concepts, have group leaders.
Okay. I heard lots of strategies listed there, group work, some one-on-one opportunities also in there. Which ones are you feeling are most effective?
Well, they seem to be getting the same results no matter what. The students don't seem to change.
Students don't seem to change. And what do you see could be potentially something else that could be used to address their challenges?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think maybe we need to find some different ways, some different textbooks, some different concepts, some project-based learning for mathematics, perhaps.
As you probably recall, in previous years you've had a pivotal role in our school, working on our school improvement team. You've chaired some grade level, department level meetings as well. Just wondering about your lack of participation lately. We seem to be missing your voice in the conversation. You mentioned wanting to look at some different curricular changes or some textbook changes or whatnot. We're missing your voice. So tell me a little bit about your lack of involvement recently.
Well, Principal Beverly, I have participated before, but little has actually changed as a result of my participation, and so I've stopped.
So you feel like nothing changed during your participation?
I feel little progress was made in the actual change or school improvement.
Okay. Do you feel like this is now an opportunity for you to re-engage in the conversation?
It might be, but are you going to be participating in these, Principal Beverly?
Absolutely.
Leading the charge so that we get change to actually occur?
I look forward to working collaboratively with you. You've mentioned several good ideas, and I look forward to working with you in developing those ideas further, and then implementing some of those changes for the better of our students.
I'd be interested in giving it another shot.
I look forward to meeting with you again soon so that we can discuss this.
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you. In summary, these are the big ideas. Continuous improvement occurs with a growth mindset. Coaching is a type of strategic conversation. It's beneficial to know and assess your teaching staff. What do we know for sure? The conversation promotes transformation. We invite you to read Robin R. Jackson's book, The Instructional Leader's Guide to Strategic Conversations with Teachers, how to provide customized feedback to teachers that actually helps them get better at teaching, for additional information and strategies.
Well, one of the most important things about Coaching 101 is they train you to pause and think and listen and to be in the moment, to look at the other person's affect, whether they smile or grimace or move in their chair, all of those things play a component into what that person is thinking through their behavior. And so Coaching 101 teaches you to listen, not just necessarily with your ears, but with your eyes, but also with your emotions. And typically what happens when you listen to someone totally and all the things that they present to you, you wind up learning something. And in that way you can help guide or mediate their thinking or whatever they're going through in a way that's affirming to their identity because they're coming up with the answers on their own.
And when you learn how to listen the way we are trained to listen in Coaching 101, I'm listening for what is the teacher's concern. I'm not listening to give the teacher answers. I have a point of view that says the answer is within the teacher. And if they need some consulting, if they really need some answers, it will be because they're asking for that specific piece of content. But in most instances, experienced teachers have a pretty deep well of knowledge. And once they have an opportunity to talk, to think, to process, they come forth with some pretty good answers.
The level of trust has frankly just been raised. And so now we can have difficult conversations about what we do every day with kids that probably would not have been possible before. The skills seem to spread from one person to the other. I've had some teachers who've also taken Coaching 101. So aside from the fact that I have the skills, I now have people on my staff who can help in modeling the skills that are needed to be effective instructors.
My general practice before I encountered Coaching 101 was to communicate with the users in a very logical, analytical way. And what I found was that it often had the unintended consequence of intimidating people. And once I was introduced to Coaching 101, what I found was that there were a number of tools that were available that I could use to make the often difficult content areas accessible for the people who needed to use these ideas.
Coaching for me, I kind of look at it from a sports perspective of coaching. Having been a coach before in the past is a lot like Coaching 101 and being a principal, right? So you have to take people and help them become better athletes. But in this circumstance, as a principal, it's helping them become better teachers and better professionals and understanding all the dynamics that go into developing our children beyond the academic side of things, and shifting paradigms and lifting consciousness has really been a valuable tool for me that has really moved the building that I'm currently in an onward and upward fashion.
I would say the biggest impact is being able to look at things through a lens that encompasses all of the aspects of dealing with my consciousness, dealing with my perspective of how to accept persons as they are, always looking from the positive lens, being able to listen and ask probing questions so that teachers are able to do a reflection and come up with solutions for themselves rather than being dictated to.